and welcome to this week's episode of Simply Defensive. I'm Josh Mason, and as always, with me, I've got Wade Wells, my co host.
What's up?
And today we've got with us one of our good friends, Blake Regan.
How's it going, everybody?
So we are audio and video, just so you know.
Okay.
I forgot to tell someone we were video, and then when we got here, I was like, hey, we're doing video too. And he's like, it's fine. But
Okay.
just so it's up. So, and to just state all my biases, Blake and I have been friends since 2020. Good friends, I would say, right? We talk to each other, I would say, at least daily, if not weekly, via some groups we're in. And Blake, how long have you been doing IR for?
I've been doing incident response officially for about 5 years now.
5 years. I feel like
5 years.
when most people hear from IR professionals, it's usually from some vendor IR professional, right? It's not from internal IR for people who've done it for organizations. And that's something I would like to talk about if you can, what you think of the big differences are and what the headaches are. But let's start off with how'd you get into security? Because once, like most people, I feel like nobody ever starts in IT. We all have migrated somehow into our positions.
Yeah. So I got into so I was in the building trades after I got out of high school, 2001, and I worked in the trades for a long time. About 2008, the U.S. economy took a change. So the remodeling and home building industry was very tough for sole proprietors to find work. So I said, hey, I have to do something different. And I'd always been good with computers. I had a cousin growing up that got me involved with computers, kind of set up with Windows 95 and Microsoft
classic.
Encarta and all that cool stuff. Yeah. So I'd always taken a liking and been the technology person. So I went back to school for information system security, and I got a job working at a help desk. It was actually a software company where I supported people remotely and worked with SQL Server and Microsoft Access databases, which I had done in school. So
Okay.
I got to develop those talking skills, asking people leading questions, working with the CRM system, all these cool things. And as I continued my education, I ended up getting a job at Motorola Solutions, being a systems engineer. And that was an amazing experience. As I look back on that, that was really where I learned my digital forensic skills, because this role required us to reproduce issues, document them in such a way that we could provide to engineering for them to identify, is this a bug? Is this a product defect?
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go down to the packet level.
Okay.
For some of these things.
Well-
So, yeah.
I feel that's usually something that's a little unheard of, or not as spoken as much anymore, where actual sysadmins and stuff have to use these, what you would classify as IR tools, right? In order to find bugs within programming and that type, or at least hosts. So.
Yeah. And using, being fresh out of school and learning these techniques and fundamentals and having them fresh in mind, I came in with this perspective where the first thing I did was work this case. There was this alarm on a system, and no one could figure out where it came from or find the time. And I ended up working with the product team and did a very large packet capture in this lab. And using the packet capture, we were able to do forensics and identify there was an issue with SNMP MIBs, right? Very nerdy.
Oh.
But it was fascinating to me, right?
Yeah.
I could use these skills. I could use the scientific method to solve these problems. And that was really what kind of attracted me to systems engineering and then eventually information security.
I love it. Usually, go ahead, Josh. Go.
I'll pretend like I didn't know that whole story. For those who were around for episode 1, I met Wade and Blake at the same time at Way West. They were hanging out and already friends. And I've learned if they're in the same place, you're hanging out with one of them, you're probably going to hang out with both. And it's a good time. I'll say.
Yeah, always a good time, right? The one bad part is we live across the country from each other, but we still get time to get to see each other, usually maybe once or twice a year, depending on cons and stuff like that.
A couple weeks ago, in a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make time.
Yeah. One thing I do want to touch is like, I feel like packet inspection is kind of a rare skill nowadays. I don't think out of all my corporate jobs, and I've worked at like mid-sized to large corporations, I don't think I've ever had to deal with actual packets ever. Like I've done with packets and CTFs and stuff like that, and I know the basics,
Yeah.
but I have never had a company that actually had packet captures where I had to investigate.
I've always wondered. I've learned it and I've taught it, but I've never
Yeah.
been an analyst.
So I found it useful in the systems admin space to solve problems where you've tried everything else and, hey, I know the request is leaving the application, but it's not getting to the firewall. Right?
Sure.
Okay, well, how can I take a look at that? Can I do a packet capture on the host? Do I need to find a switch and find the span port on there and then do a capture on the switch and filter for things? And I'm not the greatest network forensic analyst, but I know how to use the information and scientific method to identify, hey, where am I going to be able to see this most likely? And if it's there, what am I going to look for? Right. And it has helped me solve problems with proxies, firewalls. I mean, many times just taking it down to the packet level, I've heard people say packets or it didn't happen, right? Where you can take a look and
Got
an
the
example from a
receipts.
previous role. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
we were applying hardening to servers that were supporting legacy applications. And one of these hardening rules changed the way that SMB authentication happened. And so they were saying, oh, it's getting denied. It's getting denied. Well, we did a packet capture. We looked at the SMB request and it was using SMB v1 and was being denied because they thought they configured it to use SMB2,
Mhm.
but it was still using 1. The only way we were able to see that was through the packet. So
All right.
Wow. Probably,
examples.
I bet that comes down to like 1 bit being off for the flag.
Right. The negotiation sequence of the SMB
Yeah.
is really where it's at. And we
Yeah.
showed them that and they're like, when they fixed the problem, then it all worked.
Another thing I want to point out about Blake is your public speaking ability, right? This I think Josh has heard this before, but I am known for being a very fast talker, especially when I'm public speaking, and I will blow through like a 45-minute presentation in 30 minutes sometimes just because I'm so excited. I'm not really thinking about it. But Blake is I would say not my counter, but he is my example I use for somebody who has a clear tone as well as just a steady pace throughout his talking. Right. And so, Blake, how has like because I know you do a bunch of public speaking. How has like public speaking affected your cyber career?
So I can tell you being able to present to an audience with a moment's notice or a day's notice on an important topic, let's use incident response as an example,
Yeah.
is really important, right? And I was introduced to Toastmasters by a mutual friend, Jason Blanchard, during the pandemic. And that really helped me with the pacing, the tone, listening to people talk. You're listening for the things you need to give them feedback on. So
Mhm.
now you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're listening, giving it thought, and able to do that at the same time. So I can tell you the ability to give those ad hoc presentations or when you have an opportunity to interface with leadership, it's definitely important to leave that good impression. You may never interact with these people ever again, but that first impression of you being able to explain the problem clearly, what you've done to try to solve it, what the next steps are, all those things are really important in your messaging and even their level of confidence that you have the problem under control.
Is that something that you've learned has additional benefits to what you do on top of the technical?
Yeah, I have struggled throughout my career explaining highly technical things to non-technical audiences.
Mhm.
So getting feedback from leadership, from peers, watching other people talk, how they explain it has really helped me to understand how what are ways that people can easily be communicated to and ways that I find good examples when someone explains something to me, right? So that constant evolution of it, and getting the feedback. Hey, you went a little. You explained that packet capture a little too deep there. You kind of lost the executive on that one. I loved it, but in the future, right? So
Yeah.
So kind of understanding what those key points are, right?
Yeah. You didn't need to talk about that bit level, right? Like that particular
Right.
binary.
They don't care about
Yeah.
the flags. They didn't care, about what queries didn't work and how you figured out the right query. They just want to know, did you fix it? Right.
I will say learning public speaking, especially because I did the same thing, right? I was in a couple, we used to do public speaking together kind of virtually during Discord, and Jason both taught us a lot of the rules and what to do and what not to do. But it has ruined listening to others for me a little bit. I'm just counting the ums, counting the whats, the I's, and trying to pick up their ticks here and there. And if I am providing feedback, sometimes I will, but I have got uh, I have been told or been asked a lot to review people's public talks, and like they'll hit me up and give it to me beforehand. And I've been told that my feedback is like, okay, is good, and I'm not too harsh. But that's said and done, right? Josh, you do a bunch of public speaking too, right? Like,
Yeah. I got trained in the hardest way. At the Air Force Special Operations School and Air Force Academy and briefing commanders. One of those things in the Air Force, when I was a pilot, the thing that they told us co-pilots was look cool, sound cool, be cool. And so that's like an order thing. If you're in the plane, like about to taxi out and go do your thing inside the plane, if you're a mess, okay, for everyone outside, we're going to look cool. And then when you get on the radio, like if you're flustered and you're freaking out, it's like, okay, take a breath, know what you're going to say, key the mic, say the thing, don't sound like an idiot, get off the radio. And then the last thing, now, if you get good at it, then you're just cool. You're not like pretending. You're not trying to look like it or sound like it. You just are. But working from that point forward, keep your crazy in, think about what you're going to say, and then work on like actually being cool on the line.
I think
that's where I got mine.
Those help desk and customer service jobs really help you bottle your emotions, right? And not get too upset, and at least allow you to put a mask on. And then when you walk outside, then you scream type of deal. At least that's what it was for me, especially working in customer service beforehand.
The biggest thing for me that I've had to work on, and I still do, is when you get that curveball question where you may think to yourself, was this person really paying attention?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of just rolling with it, and hey, just answering the question in a positive way, because at that point it's hard to say, well, we already covered this, or I covered that in my first slide, right? Taking out that, putting in that humility, taking out that, emotion part of it, and just answering the question in a factual way. And I found that to be very helpful in those situations, because that'll happen, right? That's the other thing too, is you can plan for how can I present well, what's my tone, my pace, if I practice this. But then there's also those dynamic things that are out of your control, where you have someone who might just step in, let's say it's a briefing or an update, and they go to take over the meeting and derail it and take it off in a different direction. You got to be able to bring that. It is helpful to be able to bring that back, to let them be validated. Hear that. We'll touch on it later. Let's come back to where we're at. And then at the end, when we have that time, we'll talk about it.
That's probably what you're going to say, Josh.
I'm surprised how much in a conversation about incident response, we're talking about soft skills as opposed to some of the more technical
skills, right? Because that's usually go ahead, go Blake.
I was going to say, it even comes down to what I found helpful is even the tone of your voice, the octave that you're using.
Yep.
How you're, someone's having a really bad day, or they don't know what's next and they're really worried, right? Being able to let them know, hey, we're going to get through this. This is what we're going to do right now. This is what we're going to do next. And it even it helps me to remain calm because you're sometimes thinking through on the fly, and being able to keep that consistency is very important. Right? Like the
Emotional
duck.
intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. Like the duck, the duck on the surface, right?
Yeah.
You don't see the legs kicking below. You see the duck just
Uh,
kind of traveling along and doing the thing.
I was gonna say, because I super agree with you, Josh, but because every time I think of IR people, I think of the most technical people, right? For some reason, I always put IR people on this huge pedestal whenever, even though I've been in tech for like almost 10 years now. They're my top. Like, I think they're crazy people, and if I think it's more of the tech plus the communication skills and being able to keep strong. But to that being said, IR people do have very high burn. That's another thing.
Yeah,
Which good.
I always think of them,
Yeah.
IR roles as being kind of the first responders in cybersecurity. Once something's gone down, it's like firefighters and paramedics, like going in and doing what needs to happen so that it doesn't get worse.
I wouldn't even call them first responders because usually the triage analyst is the first responder, right? I think of them as special forces coming in. Like they're who you call in when stuff got real, that you no longer can handle it anymore. Or as just like a detection engineer or a regular security engineer, an analyst. Usually IR comes in when when the temperature has just gone to 11 or the knob's gone to 11 type of deal.
Or the temperature may be going to 11.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so to your point there, for a long time, I tried to be the technical. I got to know all these things. I got to know how to find C2 traffic and the packet capture. I got to know how to do this and this and this and this. And you get to a point where it's really hard to do all of that and be that person that does all. So, knowing other team members, let's use a large enterprise environment, right? You've got people that work on the network. They can probably work with packet captures. You've got people that are on the systems administration team. They know how to do scripting to look for changes, search Active Directory and find changes that were made within a certain date, right? Mm-hmm. It's that evolving that team sport mentality. If you have that capability to get that plan together, you know how to do this, you know how to do this. Delegate to people that can do those things so that you can really combine those special forces. And you've got this well-developed team that's out here doing the things they need to do, having touch-based meetings, checking in, converging, because it is really hard to do all those technical things and then do reporting and documentation in the meetings. And you get to a point where that's where the burnout happens when you try to do it all. And I know there's some people that they have very small team and they have to, right? But then there's also consulting companies where they've got, they've got the special forces brigade, right? Where there's a lot of them, right? And they use those power in numbers to crash that project or that. So there's varying situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think having what I found very helpful is developing that team sport mentality and then empowering people to do the things, because they may not think that they can do incident response. But when you tell them the pivot tables they're doing and the analysis they're doing is helping move the investigation along the line, I could do this. Like, this is cool. Okay. And then they're motivated.
That's awesome.
Very important.
What do you think? I was going to go in one direction. I just said mid-face. How did you learn the incident response side of things?
So I brought a special set of skills that I acquired through many years of doing construction and carpentry and working on job sites, right? And the way that I assimilate that is you have a project that's heading towards inspection. You've got a couple different vendors, different trades in here. You have one trade that doesn't show up. They're the electricians. And before the drywall can go up, the electrical work's got to get finished. And so you start learning how to balance these things. And what I learned from my dad, who was a builder, and other people, and also actually painting, being a professional painter, interior decorator, that's, sanding wood, priming, is what are all these steps that I have to do? And how is the best way that I can manage my time to do them? Right? Like if I go and sand all the baseboard and putty everything, I need to let that dry. I can go over here and do some drywall patching because that mud's going to need to dry. So when that's drying over there, I can go mix up the stain for the doors and make sure that's right. So you kind of just keep working. What I learned was how can I see the big picture and be able to understand what do I need to be doing right now so that I can be prepared 3 steps down the road.
Okay.
And then translating that to information security is kind of comes up the same way. There were times where I didn't know what the next steps were, right? So it's getting that lesson learned during an incident or leaning on a senior person or training, right? And having them show you. I had someone who really helped me. I worked with a consultant on an incident who really helped me kind of see the next steps and phases as we worked along. I was the most technical person. So they're like, hey, stick with me, kid, and you'll be all right. So I kind of got that under the hood guidance and guidelines about what the next steps were and really got to ask those because I asked questions to understand, right? I kind of was able to build that up and help me realize that, hey, I have these skills already. I like this. It's exciting, right? So,
Pretty cool.
I always like the stories of how old jobs that aren't tech can easily relate to these new ones, right? You just gotta critical think a little bit about how they can relate over. I know who was telling me? Someone was telling me that like ChatGPT is actually really good at that. If you say compare these two jobs, like this job and cybersecurity, how do they relate? I can't remember. Oh no, now it's gonna bug me. What are some? You got anything else, Josh? Or before I go crazy?
You go ahead.
I go ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you like doing the most then in Blue Team? You're doing IR, but is there like a particular artifact or tool or anything you particularly like to use in IR?
I really like to use Autopsy digital forensics platform for a multitude of uses. I can use it to look through a PST file of emails and get the timeline organized, right? It's not fun to just sort through emails and get the timelines right. I can use it to look at a PDF document and look at the magic bytes and the hex stream and see if it's the right version of PDF, right? The person says that it's this version, but maybe it's another one. Where does it really say? And then also being able to organize multiple artifacts that quick response. You can artifacts that quick response is just really cool that there's an open source tool that someone makes that has all these cool features. I think it's pretty cool.
They usually have like free training and or either a CTF every now and then. I know I've taken it in the past, even though my like digital forensics career was pretty light, to tell you the truth. But I always
and I actually took a class from Basis Technology, which is cyber. The sleuth kid and Autopsy, Brian Carrier started this. I actually met him this past weekend at Blue Team Con and got to have a good conversation.
He's really cool. We talked to him at the bar we had several drinks with him.
Yeah. He told me I took this class with Autopsy and there was never I knew how to use Encase just enough, but it's really hard. It's so convoluted. So I was not proficient with it.
Had to teach with Encase.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy. So here's this training class in the pandemic that Basis Technology offered. I took it so seriously, jumped right in, learned the ins and outs. And Brian was telling me they thought that maybe 500 people might take this class. The real numbers that came in were like 110,000 people.
Yes. I'm pretty sure that's when I took it too. Right?
Yeah, me too.
That's amazing, right? So that was pretty cool. So that really got me into digital forensics incident response. I was traditionally looking at images of hosts and identifying files and matching up hashes from here are the files that got copied to the USB. Here's the image of the workstation that they matched. So they took the documents. So we already knew they did. But now I'm able to, looking at something a little more practical and easier to use.
Okay. All right.
That's awesome.
What is one thing you think all blue teamers should learn, or at least should
Oh,
improve on?
I really have to say the soft skills.
Yeah.
I'm very hard on myself. I compare myself to others when they speak, or I see someone give a presentation and I assimilate, and I also do pay attention to others when they present or speak and compare it, hey, can I
Oh
do it
yeah.
this way? Is this better? And what I see is there's never one way to do, hey, this is the right way to do it. But there are people who are much better at the soft skills than others, right? And those are the people that I usually find myself collaborating with more efficient, right? Because there's less time interpreting what someone else meant or what the expectations were when you're able to write. I had someone fix my grammar for me in the previous role, and it's made such a difference for me. Right? The grammar, the speaking, and even the listening skills. Right? I'm hard on myself. It's hard when you're in a virtual environment and you don't have cameras on and you're talking and you have all these ideas, and I find myself interrupting people, and it's not because I'm being rude. It's just because there's that listening. Am I waiting for my turn to talk, or am I listening to them?
Mm-mm.
I catch myself waiting for my turn to talk. And I think that's something that, I know that's something I can improve on, but again, that's part of the soft skills, right?
No, it
Sounds like
definitely is. That is some.
it sounds like if you focus on the soft skills a little bit, then the hard skills become less crucial. Kind of if you're able to tap into the soft skills a little easier, then as a team, you can get the hard skills down without as much trouble. Would that be
I
accurate?
would, yeah, or let's look at it this way. You could be really technical and have all these great skills, but if you can't communicate that to people, what does that do?
Mm,
Right? The technical skills will come, and you can improve on those. Same thing with the soft skills, but I think it's very important for that communication aspect, because I could spend 10 hours doing an investigation and then provide it. I've got 5 minutes to provide a report, and depending on how I organize the information, how I go over the information, could make the difference of, hey, we have confidence that this is going well, or we have a lot of questions now. We only have 25 minutes for this meeting, but we need to make it, or we need to have another.
yeah,
So I found that to be a difference. And then that's happened to me before. So that's like, okay, what can I be doing now to not be in that situation in the future?
that's huge.
When you were talking about people like doing public speaking and comparing yourself to others, right? That I do that heavily. And so at Blue Team Con, was it the 2 weekends ago now? It
Yeah.
was I was my first time ever co-speaking with someone, and planning for it was like immensely hard. Like I did not expect it to be that hard, like who to take what slide, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And the best part is both of us had complete opposite like speaking styles. Where I am like very from the hip. I'm loud. I'll
Right.
talk fast. I have bullet points, but and I have like a slight script, but don't read it. Or my partner was like very like, oh, here's my entire script. Here's what I'm gonna go.
Right.
But like he sounds completely like an engineer. Very, very, very good. But the thing is, I like his speaking style more than mine half the time. So, but the interesting mixture of the two is always really fun. At least it was much more fun than I thought it was going to be. You were there. What did you
Right.
think? Give me your honest review. Now
So
as
I
a
thought,
public speaker, roast me.
so I thought the talk went very well. I thought that you and David did both a great job. You had different styles, but you complemented each other. You brought in the humor in between the slides and in between the topics, where you kind of did a segue. So you had the audience engaged, and people were, they were doing a little laugh in there and they were paying attention. So your presentation could have been very dry and boring, but you made detection as code fun, because the way you compared and contrasted that this is why you should do it. This is how you do it. This is what we learned. And then brought in that little sense of humor there to keep people engaged and keep it lighthearted. So I thought the talk went really well. If I had to give any feedback, you already gave this to yourself. I thought you talked a little fast, when you were talking about something you could tell that you were passionate about or you knew a lot about. Hey, I'm going to tell you all these. I know I only have 35 seconds. I'm going to tell you all these things. But I don't think someone who knew you could pick up on that.
Yeah.
So overall, you ended on time. You had 5 minutes left for questions. A lot of people clapped. The room was mostly full in an afternoon on Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
Right. No, it was good for the time wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were several times where I made eye contact with you or I looked at you and then the cadence switched on in my mind. I'm like, all right, I have to rethink. I went off track, but no, totally.
That's
Uh,
huge, isn't it? When you've got like a
Yeah.
supporter or like
Oh yeah.
an anchor in the audience.
Yeah. Luckily Blue Team Con I had several, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So that was always great.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on time. Blake,
Okay.
what do you want to promote? I've never said that before ever, but where can people find you? What are some things you think people should be looking at, like on the side?
What have
do
you
you
got
think-
coming up?
What have you got going? Everything, anything you want to, where I was poor at asking you questions.
Lots of questions. So anything that I want to promote, I would definitely say if you did not get a chance to check out Blue Team Con this year, that you definitely put it on your list next year. It's a great conference. I got involved. The founder, Frank McGovern, he and I went to college together. We stayed in touch, started learning about this Blue Team Con thing, started helping out. And it's been an interesting journey. The conference is growing. It's great. What's really rewarding is to see new people come to the conference who are getting into cybersecurity or maybe from different roles. And it's such a friendly and welcoming environment with no posturing and no egos that anybody can, have a conversation with anybody just because we're all talking about, shared interests, knowledge, and learning.
Nice. And that's
Things that I can, go ahead.
Sorry, I kind of want to pull on that string just a touch. That's usually about the beginning of September, right? In Chicago.
Yes. So it's
Perfect.
the first weekend of September is what we moved to. We had been in the last weekend of August. That brought challenges because of the closeness in time to Hacker Summer Camp. So a lot of people were coming, trying to turn around 1 week later to Blue Team Con. It was tough. Putting it after Labor Day weekend also has its challenges because a lot of people go on travel or holiday. There's never going to be the right weekend to pick, but we find that having that first week of September works out better for us, for our attendees and sponsors.
Nice. Thank you.
So things that I'm working on, if you ask me things that I'm working on, I've really been working on my time management skills.
Okay.
And looking at things in the urgent versus important aspect. Is it urgent, important? Is it urgent, not important? Is it not urgent, not important? There was one that I missed there, but you get the idea. That's really helped me to, when you have multiple priorities and have a lot of things going on, especially in incident work or even outside of work, sometimes you can cause yourself undue anxiety by trying to think of them all at once or which one am I going to solve now? So that's what I've been working on personally. Outside of work or skills, I'm really trying to brush up on my Python skills. I got to do a couple projects recently that involved working with Python and APIs, and I had a blast. Like there is nothing that brings me more satisfaction than saying that I'm going to solve a problem that I have no clue of how I'm going to do it right now, but I'm going to go learn everything that I need to know about this and all the idiosyncrasies and plan this out. And then that moment when that solution comes and it works, I know it's like a dopamine hit, but it's more about the challenge of this has been driving me nuts for a week or 2 weeks. And I finally figured it out because I here's all the things that didn't work. So now I'm going to use that to help me find out what works. So the Python skills, and it's a lot of fun. For many years, I kind of hesitated on that. I'm like, I'm only going to do PowerShell or Python's hard. I took Geoff Thayer's Python class from Anti-Siphon, and it really helped explain things a lot more easy to comprehend terms, which kind of took some of the I'm not smart enough to do this out of it. So
What are some of the do you have any particular resources that you're using for the urgency important thing? Is it like a book, or where did you come up with that in those terms, just so you could share it?
So I use a little bit of Chat GPT to help me understand general concepts. Not to get the exact code line for line, but the different ways or working with different libraries help me rapidly come up with a solution, which I then fine tune to my own. Yeah, rapid learning. There's also a book I'm reading. It's Python Illustrated version number 3. Let me just so I say the right one. This is Illustrated Guide to Python 3 by Matt Harrison.
Okay.
This one's been pretty cool because you can read along, but then you can also work with the Python development environment and do the little exercises. It's helped me there.
So that's about the subject you were talking about before, about keeping stuff important and stuff like in your life. How do you do that? Where did you learn to do that? This is probably the last question.
Yeah, great question. So a lot of it has been working with a therapist on how to get better with that, because I've struggled with it for a while. But what has also helped me is my experience just being in leadership roles or being in situations where people sometimes are looking to you to understand what that next important step is or how to do that, and being able to develop those skills of, what's the hottest fire right now. That doesn't always apply to your personal life, but, understanding, hey, if I've got 5 days and I have these 3 things to do, which ones do first, which one's the hardest to do, which one's the easiest, that sometimes helps you identify a way forward. So I think a lot of it too, in closing, is that being willing to improve and get feedback and give feedback, because, feedback can be a gift when it's given in the right context. I'm really hard on myself. I've been trying to get better about that. But that's kind of, where that comes from is, hey, what can I do better in these situations?
Yeah. Awesome. Great.
And just before we close out, we're definitely going to see you in a couple of weeks in Deadwood, right?
So I'm going to be attending virtually this year.
Oh man.
So yeah, I know. So doing some family stuff in that week of October. So I will be there in spirit, and I will be able to do some remote attendee there. But this year I will not be there.
Excellent. Then I'll not have to find a way to catch up with you some other way.
Sure, for sure.
Thank you for joining us today. This was great. Hope you all
great, you guys.
For those who enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and join us again next week for more Simply Defensive.
Cool. Thanks, Blake.
All right, no problem. Take care, guys.